What will happen when a man enjoys his coffee in the garden and an injured, enormous eagle suddenly appears at his home? At first, he thinks the eagle needs help, but as he approaches, he discovers something unbelievable that will change his life forever. The story begins with Alexander, a man living all by himself in a quiet house at the base of towering mountains. His home was just outside a small town, where thick forests seemed to reach up and meet the endless blue sky. Alexander had moved here after losing his family, hoping the peaceful surroundings would help him heal. The mountains became his safe place, a spot where he could find calm and try to mend his heart. Each day, he woke up with the sunrise, enjoying the sound of birds singing and the wind whispering through the tall trees. His days were simple. He would walk through the forest, fish in the clear rivers, and look at the stars at night. But even in this peaceful life, a deep sadness still followed him. At night, when everything was quiet, he often felt the weight of loneliness. One early morning, as the mist still hung over the treetops, Alexander stepped onto his porch, holding a steaming cup of coffee. The cold air felt sharp against his skin, but the peaceful silence made it worth it. Everything seemed calm until a sudden noise broke the quiet. The sound of wings flapping loudly caught his attention. Startled, Alexander looked up, and what he saw took his breath away. A massive eagle landed right in front of his house. The bird was huge, with wings stretching over 2 meters. Its feathers gleamed in shades of gold and brown, and its eyes seemed to hold the wisdom of many lifetimes. Alexander's heart raced with a mix of excitement and fear. He had never been this close to such a powerful creature before. He took a step back, not sure what to do, but he couldn't look away. The eagle stared at him, still and calm, as if it could see straight through him. Then, Alexander noticed something was wrong. One of the eagle's wings drooped unnaturally, and dried blood stained its beautiful feathers. The bird looked worn out and in pain, as though it had barely made it to his porch. A wave of sympathy washed over Alexander. He couldn't just leave the creature like this. Slowly, he inched closer, trying to make soothing motions with his hands. The eagle didn't move, its eyes now fixed on the distant mountains. It tried to flap its injured wing, but failed. Then, the bird let out a soft, mournful cry that pulled at Alexander's heart. Alexander sensed that the eagle was trying to tell him something. He looked toward the mountains, unsure of what to do, but a strong feeling inside told him to follow the bird. Without wasting time, he rushed inside, grabbed his jacket, and quickly packed a few essentials: a first aid kit, water, food, and a flashlight. He had no idea where this journey would lead, but he felt like the eagle needed him for something important. The eagle started walking toward the forest, turning its head now and then to make sure Alexander was following. They moved through the thick trees, where sunlight peeked through the branches, and the ground was soft with moss. The fresh air filled Alexander's lungs as they continued deeper into the woods. The path soon became harder, narrowing as they climbed over fallen trees, crossed small streams, and walked along rocky trails. Even though Alexander's legs began to ache, he refused to stop. The eagle kept moving, despite its obvious pain. Every so often, the bird paused to rest, letting out soft cries. Alexander's heart ached for the injured creature, and he was determined to help it, no matter where this path led. After hours of walking, Alexander and the eagle stepped into a wide meadow. The view of the mountains was stunning, but Alexander hardly noticed. Dark clouds were rolling in, signaling that a storm was on its way. The eagle kept moving, leading him towards steep, rocky cliffs. The climb became tougher, with every step feeling more dangerous than the last. The stones were wet and slippery from the rain, and the wind picked up, howling through the trees. Even though Alexander had to be very careful, he pushed on, driven by the eagle's strong will. As they approached the cliffs, the path narrowed until there was barely enough room for Alexander to squeeze through. Below, a roaring river crashed against the rocks, reminding him that one wrong step could be deadly. Cold sweat trickled down his back, but he continued. Finally, after hours of exhausting travel, they reached a towering cliff. The eagle let out a loud cry, filled with urgency. Looking up, Alexander saw a large nest high on the cliff, with faint chirping sounds coming from it. His heart sank. Inside the nest were baby eagles, helpless and likely starving. But the nest was high, and the cliff was steep and dangerous. Alexander quickly scanned the area and spotted a narrow path leading up the cliff. It was risky, but he had no other choice. Taking a deep breath, he began the climb, gripping every handhold and foothold he could find. The rocks felt cold and slippery, and the wind threatened to push him off balance. At one point, a rock crumbled beneath him, and for a terrifying moment, he lost his grip. But just in time, he caught a small ledge and pulled himself back up. His heart raced, but he knew he couldn't give up. He had to reach the nest and save the baby eagles. After what felt like an eternity, Alexander finally reached the nest. Inside were the tiny eaglets, weak and hungry. He gently fed them with the food he had brought along. The mother eagle perched nearby, watching him closely and making soft sounds of approval. Days turned into a routine, as Alexander visited the nest every day to care for the eaglets. Slowly, the eagle's injured wing began to heal, thanks to his attention and love. The eaglets grew stronger, eagerly trying to flap their tiny wings. Alexander felt a swell of pride as he watched them make their first clumsy attempts to fly, encouraged by their mother. Weeks passed, and Alexander became part of this eagle family. A deep bond formed between him and the birds, filling the empty space in his heart. One sunny day, under a bright blue sky, the eaglets finally took flight. They soared into the air, their wings strong and sure. Alexander watched them with joy, but also felt a bittersweet ache, knowing his time with them was coming to an end. The day of farewell arrived. The eagle, now fully healed, stood with her young ones at the edge of the cliff, ready to return to the wild. They circled Alexander's house one last time, as if saying goodbye. The mother eagle landed beside him, gently brushing his shoulder with her beak. Alexander felt tears in his eyes as he watched them fly away, disappearing into the sky. However, Alexander didn't feel sad. The deep sorrow that had once filled him was gone. The eagles had brought peace to his heart and a new purpose in his life. Inspired by his journey, Alexander began writing a book about his experience, finding joy in sharing his story. Although the eagle family had returned to the wild, they didn't forget him. From time to time, they would fly back to his home, soaring high above the town. Every visit reminded Alexander of the special bond he had formed with these magnificent creatures and the unexpected family he had found. So, what are your thoughts about this heart-touching story? Share your opinions in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on our new animal stories. Your support means the world to us.